Friends, if you want to watch super hit movie Train to Busan in English, then you must like this video. If you are visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Friends, in today's video, the movie we're going to talk about is called Train to Busan. We will talk about what this movie is and where you can watch it, all the interesting facts about this movie in today's video. I am going to tell you. I am also going to give you all the information on which OTT platform or on which satellite channel you will get to watch this movie. Also, we will talk in detail about the technical department, music department, pre-production, filming, post-production, budget, box office collection of this film. We will also talk about the story of this film, and I will also give you a small review of the story of this film. Apart from this, we will discuss about the facts of this film storyline, star cast, actors' performance in the film, and which character has played which role. That's why I request you friends to watch this video till the ends. So let's start the video. Train to Busan, Korean, Busanhaeng. Busanhaeng, lit. To Busan, is a 2016 South Korean action horror film directed by Yeon Sang-ho and starring Gong Yoo, Jung Yoo-mi, Ma Dong-seok, Kim Soo-an, Choi Woo-shik, An So-hee, and Kim Woo-sung. The film mostly takes place on a KTX from Seoul to Busan as a zombie apocalypse suddenly breaks out in the country and threatens the safety of the passengers. The film premiered in the midnight screening section of the 2016 Cannes Film Festival on the 13th of May. On the 7th of August, the film set a record as the first Korean film of 2016 to break the audience record of over 10 million theatergoers. The movie successfully launched the Train to Busan film series, with the animated prequel Seoul Station released in 2016 and a standalone sequel named Peninsula, released in 2020. Another installment and an American-produced adaptation are also in development. Citation needed. Plot fund manager Suk-woo is a cynical workaholic and a divorced father. His estranged daughter Soo-an wants to spend her birthday with her mother Na-young in Busan. Suk-woo sees a video of Soo-an attempting to sing Aloha Oe at her singing recital and succumbing to stage fright as a result of his absence. Overcome with guilt, he decides to grant Soo-an's birthday wish. The next day, they board the KTX 101 at Seoul Station, en route to Busan. Other passengers include Sang-hwa and his pregnant wife Sung-kyung, CEO Yeon-suk, a high school baseball team including player Yong-guk and his cheerleader girlfriend Jin-hee, elderly sisters In-gil and Jong-gil, and a traumatized homeless stowaway hiding in the bathroom. Before the train departs, an ill woman runs onto the train unnoticed. She turns into a zombie and attacks a train attendant, who also turns. The infection spreads rapidly throughout the train. The group escapes to another car and locks the doors. Internet reports and phone calls make it known that an epidemic is spreading southward across the country. When the train stops at Daejeon Station, the survivors find the city overrun by zombies and hastily retreat back to the train, splitting up into different train cars in the ensuing chaos. Suk-woo learns by phone that his company is indirectly involved in the disaster. The military establishes a quarantine zone near Busan, to which the conductor sets a course. Suk-woo, Sang-hwa, and Yong-guk, who have become separated from their loved ones, fight their way to where Soo-an and Sung-kyung are hiding with In-gil and the homeless man. Once regrouped, they struggle through the zombie horde to the front train car, where the rest of the passengers are sheltered. At the prompting of Yeon-suk and train attendant Ki-chul, the passengers prevent the survivors from entering, fearing that they are infected. Sang-hwa sacrifices himself to give the others time to force open the door and enter the car, but In-gil is killed. Yeon-suk, Ki-chul, and the passengers demand that the survivors isolate themselves in the front vestibule. However, Jong-gil, disgusted at the passengers and despairing from the loss of her sister, deliberately opens the other door and allows the zombies to enter and kill the rest of the car's passengers. Yeon-suk and Ki-chul escape by hiding in the bathroom. A blocked track at the East Daegu station forces the survivors to stop and search for another train. Yeon-suk escapes after pushing Ki-chul into the zombies. A flaming locomotive derails, separating the group and trapping Suk-woo, Soo-an, Sung-kyung, and the homeless man underneath a carriage filled with zombies. Meanwhile, Yeon-suk runs into Jin-hee and Yong-guk, pushing the former into a zombie in his attempts to escape. Heartbroken, Yong-guk stays with Jin-hee until she turns and kills him. The conductor starts a locomotive on another track, but is also thrown to the zombies while trying to save an injured Yeon-suk. Seok-woo finds a way out from under the carriage, but the escape route is shortly afterward blocked by falling debris. The homeless man sacrifices himself to buy time for Seok-woo to clear the debris, and he, Suan, and Sung-kyung manage to escape onto the new locomotive. After fighting off zombies hanging onto the locomotive, they encounter Yeon-suk, who is on the verge of turning into a zombie and is begging for help. Seok-woo manages to throw him off, but is bitten. He puts Suan and Sung-kyung inside the engine room, teaches the latter how to operate the train, and says goodbye to the former. In his final moments before he turns, he reminisces the moment of Suan's birth before throwing himself off the locomotive. Due to another train blockage, Suan and Sung-kyung are forced to stop the train at a tunnel just prior to Busan. The two exit the train and continue following the tracks on foot through the tunnel. Snipers are stationed on the other side of the tunnel and are prepared to shoot at what they believe to be zombies, but they lower their weapons when they hear Suan singing Aloha Oe, in tribute to her late father. Cast Gong Yoo as Seok-woo, a fun manager whose wife left him because of his selfishness. Jung as Sung-kyung, Sang-hwa's pregnant wife. Ma Dong-seok as Yoon Sang-hwa, husband of Sung-kyung. Kim Suan as Suan, daughter of Seok-woo, who wants to see her mom in Busan for her birthday. Choi Woo-shik as Min Young-guk, a high school baseball player. So-hae as Kim Jin-hee, Young-guk's girlfriend. Kim Oh-sung as Yeon-suk, a business executive. Choi Gui-hwa as the homeless man. Jang Hyuk-jin as Ki-chul, a train attendant. Park Myung-sin as Jong-gil, In-gil's younger sister. Ye-soo-jung as In-gil, the older sister of Jong-gil. As the driver of the KTX, Han Sung-soo as the KTX train. Team leader Kim Chang-won as Deputy Kim Jin-mo. Shim Eun-kyung as a runaway girl. Liu Shil as Seok-woo's mother and Suan's grandmother. Woo Do-im as female train attendant. Min-ji Cha Chung-hwa as middle-aged woman. Kim Joo-hun as baseball coach. Han Ji-eun as woman wearing headphones. Production. The film is based on an original story created by Park Joo-suk. The team tried to reference the movements of the zombies in the game 7 Days to Die and the movements of the dolls from Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence, and also reviewed the movements of the nurses in Silent Hill. The film was filmed in various stations from Daejeon, Cheonan, and East Daegu. The water deer in the movie was created using real videos of water deer and 3D modeling. The scenery that is seen outside the train in the film was shot with an LED plate rear screen technique behind the set piece that was based on the interior of the KTX-I, facilitating the increased focus on the characters. The blood vessels of the zombies were drawn with an airbrush. The zombies were styled differently, depending on the progress of the infection. Reception box office. Train to Busan grossed $80.5 million in South Korea, $2.2 million in the United States and Canada, and $15.8 million in other territories for a total worldwide gross of $98.5 million. It became the highest-grossing Korean film in Malaysia, Hong Kong, and Singapore. In South Korea, it recorded more than 11 million moviegoers, 16, and was the highest-grossing film of the year. Critical response. The review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes reported that 95% of 131 critics have given the film a positive review, with an average rating of 7.70/10. The website's critics' consensus states, Train to Busan delivers a thrillingly unique and purely entertaining take on the zombie genre, with fully realized characters and plenty of social commentary to underscore the bursts of skillfully staged action. Metacritic, which assigns a normalized rating to reviews, assigned the film an average score of 72 out of 100, based on 16 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. Clark Collis of Entertainment Weekly wrote that the film borrows heavily from World War Z in its depiction of the fast-moving undead masses, while also boasting an emotional core the Brad Pitt starring extravaganza often lacked, adding that the result is first class throughout. At the New York Times, Jeanette Katsoulis selected the film as her critic's pick and took notice of its subtle class warfare. In a more mixed review, David Ehrlich of IndieWire comments that, as the characters whittle away into archetypes and start making senseless decisions, the spectacle also sheds its unique personality. Kevin Jaggernoth of The Playlist wrote, Train to Busan doesn't add anything significant to the zombie genre, nor has anything perceptive to say about humanity in the face of crisis. Sure, it lacks brains, and that's the easy quip to make, but what Train to Busan truly needs, and disappointingly lacks, is heart. In 2016, British filmmaker Edgar Wright, director of zombie comedy Shaun of the Dead, highly applauded the film, personally recommending it on Twitter and calling it the best zombie movie I've seen in forever. Home media American distributor Go USA released DVD and Blu-ray versions of Train to Busan on the 17th of January 2017. FNC Ad Culture released the Korean DVD and Blu-ray versions on the 22nd of February 2017. It is also available on Rakuten Viki and Amazon Prime Video streaming. The Indian version is a minute shorter than the original version due to a few violent zombie shots being censored. Citation needed. In the United Kingdom, it was 2017's fourth best-selling foreign language film on home video, below Operation Chromite, Your Name and Guardians, 40. It was later 2020's sixth best-selling foreign language film in the UK and third best-selling Korean film, below Parasite and Train to Busan Presents, Peninsula. Follow-ups prequel main article, Seoul Station, film. An animated prequel, Seoul Station, also directed by Yeon, was released on 18th of August 2016. Sequel, main article, Peninsula, film. Peninsula, a standalone sequel set 4 years after Train to Busan and also directed by Yeon, was released in South Korea on the 15th of July 2020 to mixed reviews, 43. Yeon has stated that Peninsula is not a sequel to Train to Busan because it's not a continuation of the story, but it happens in the same universe. American remake in 2016, Gaumont acquired the rights for the English-language remake of the film from Next Entertainment World. In 2018, New Line Cinema, Atomic Monster and Coin Operated were announced to be the co-producing partners for the remake, with Warner Bros. Pictures distributing worldwide, except for France and South Korea. Indonesian director Timo Tjahjanto is in talks to helm the film, while Gary Dauberman adapts the screenplay and co-produces the film alongside James Wan. In December 2021, the film's official title was revealed to be The Last Train to New York, scheduled to be released 21st of April 2023. However, in July 2022, Warner Bros. Removed the film off the release schedule 49 with Evil Dead Rise, another New Line Cinema film, taking its original release date. See also Trip Busan, the Lolas vs. Zombies Filipino comedy movie whose name is inspired by this film's Kareta Berdara Snowpiercer. Post-apocalyptic action movie also involving low-class passengers on a train rebelling against the ruling elites in the midst of a crisis. Yeon Sang-ho's Train to Busan is the most purely entertaining zombie film in some time, finding echoes of George Romero's and Danny Boyle's work, but delivering something unique for an era in which kindness to others seems more essential than ever. For decades, movies about the undead have essentially been built on a foundation of fear of our fellow man. Your neighbor may look and sound like you, but he wants to eat your brain. But Train to Busan takes that a step further by building on the idea that, even in our darkest days, we need to look out for each other. And it is those who climb over the weak to save themselves who will suffer. Social commentary aside, it's also just a wildly fun action movie, beautifully paced and constructed, with just the right amount of character and horror. In many ways, it's what World War Z should have been, a nightmarish vision of the end of the world, and a provocation to ask ourselves what it is that really makes us human in the first place. Seok-woo, Gong Yoo, is a divorced workaholic. He lives with his mother and barely spends any time with his daughter Suan, Kim Suan. He's so distant from her that he buys her a Nintendo Wii for her birthday, ignoring that she has one already and that he's the one who bought it for her for Children's Day. To make up for this rather awkward moment, he agrees to give Suan what she really wants, a trip to her mother's home in Busan, 280 miles away. It's just an hour train ride from Seoul. What could possibly go wrong? Even the setup is a thematic beauty, as this is more than just a train ride for Seok-woo and Suan. It's a journey into the past as a father tries to mend bridges and fix that which may be dead. It's a perfect setting for a zombie movie. Before they even get to their early morning train ride, Seok-woo and Suan see a convoy of emergency vehicles headed into Seoul. When they get to the train, Sang-ho beautifully sets up his cast of characters, giving us beats with the conductors, a pair of elderly sisters, a husband and his pregnant wife, an obnoxious businessman, a vision of Seok-woo in a couple decades, and even a baseball team. A woman who's clearly not well gets on the train just before it departs, and just as something else disturbing, but generally unseen, is happening in the station above the platform. Before you know it, the woman is taking out the jugular of a conductor, who immediately becomes a similarly mindless killing machine. These are zombies of the 28 Days Later variety. Fast, focused, and violent. They replicate like a virus, turning whole cars of the train into dead-eyed flesh-eaters in a matter of seconds. They are rabid dogs. And you thought your metro commute was bad. The claustrophobic tension of Train to Busan is amplified after a brilliantly staged sequence in a train station in which our surviving travelers learn that the entire country has gone brain-hungry. They discover that the undead can't quite figure out door handles and are mostly blind, so tunnels and lines of sight become essential. Sang-ho also keeps up his social commentary, giving us characters who want to do anything to survive, and others who will do what it takes to save others. Early in the film, Seok-woo tells his daughter, "At a time like this, only watch out for yourself." But he learns that this isn't the advice we should live by or pass down to our children. Without spoiling anything, the survivors of Train to Busan are only so lucky because of the sacrifice of others. And the film is thematically stronger than your average zombie flick in the way it captures how panic can make monsters of us all. And it is our responsibility to overcome that base instinct in times of crisis. After the near-perfect first hour of Train to Busan, the film slows its progress and makes a few stops that feel repetitive, but the journey recovers nicely for a memorable finale. You could call it Train of the Living Dead or Snowpiercer with zombies. Whatever you call it, if it's playing in your city and you've ever been entertained by a zombie movie, it's hard to believe you wouldn't be entertained by this one. Train to Busan is everything a zombie film should be. Eerie, emotional, and exhilarating. Director Yeon Sang-ho's compelling debut live-action film is a masterclass in thrill and an undeniable contender for genre best that captures the essence of post-apocalyptic horror within the confines of a moving train. It frees itself from the limits of needless world-building and uses Ground Zero of Outbreak Day to study its characters as they are flung into circumstances that only grow more dire. Set in Seoul, South Korea, the story follows fund manager and distant father Seok-woo, Gong Yoo, as he accompanies his daughter Soo-an on a train ride to Busan, a city 3 hours away, amidst a quickly spreading zombie infection outbreak. It is clear that Seok-woo is a work-obsessed and self-serving man, accentuated when he brings home a gift for his daughter that she points out he had already bought her once before. After some protest, he agrees to take her to visit her mother in Busan to make up for it. But as their train is about to leave, an injured woman jumps on board. Quickly, infection and chaos spread through the cabins with incredible aggressiveness. Unlike the slow-moving walkers of The Walking Dead, 2010, Train to Busan's infected are fast, strong, and mindlessly determined to attack their next victims. They also add one of the genre's scariest additions to zombie lore: the speed at which their infection spreads. The bitten turn in mere minutes, sometimes even seconds, dwindling the number of passengers and general public at an alarming rate. Among Soo-an and Seok-woo are working-class man Sang-hwa, Dong-seok, and his soon-to-be-expecting wife, Sung-kyung, Jung. Their loving dynamic and willingness to help those around them acts as a foil to selfish predisposition and pushes him to become a better man. They are joined by Jin-hee, So-hee, a cheerleader infatuated with a baseball player, co-passenger Min Young-guk, Choi Woo-shik, and Yeon-suk, Kim Wee-sung, who is a COO of a powerful company. The variety in character types come to portray the differences in reactions to chaos. Train to Busan is as much a story about the corruption and greed of the higher classes as it is about zombies. It provides an observation rather than direct critique of selfishness. While its themes are universal, Train to Busan brings unique attention to South Korea and the prevalence of individualism in not only its citizens, but their government. Yeon Sang-ho is no stranger to this type of observation, having directed a number of critically acclaimed animated films prior, such as The King of Pigs, 2011, The Fake, 2013, and Seoul Station, 2015, each of which deal with generational poverty, neglect of the homeless, and what makes a person good or bad. This question of morality hangs over Train to Busan too, which showcases that one's goodness is based on the choices made. It doesn't waste time with trying to explain all the whys of the apocalypse or finding a solution to every problem. Instead, it keeps the stakes ridiculously high and characters constantly in a reactionary state. Yeon Sang-ho's film has a uniqueness in its understanding of character motivation and humanity. It doesn't commend anyone directly, but instead presents the chain of events that surround an individual's decision-making, for better or worse. The ideology that there are only good or bad choices, not people, is ever present as the bonds between the train passengers evolve, change, and/or regress throughout the duration of their journey. Accompanying its existential elements, Train to Busan's camera work from cinematographer Lee Hung-deok is exceptional, never leaving room to breathe. As was the case in Snowpiercer, another film set on a train and directed by a South Korean, Bong Joon-ho, every cramped, contained moment on the train is elevated by breathlessly choreographed action sequences and contrasted by establishing shots of vast landscapes that reinforce the isolation of their struggle. Yeon Sang-ho's background in animation shines through here, especially in scenes where the infected are shown in numbers. Although terrifying, these sequences are spectacular. Every character undergoes some sort of transformation, either becoming more selfless and survival-orientated or succumbing to the fear of their own morality and acting out of crude self-interest. The intensity of the survivor's situation backs them into figurative and literal corners not often seen in Western zombie media. Resident Evil, World War Z, which often relies repetitively on big guns and brute cruelty to get out of tough spots. The passengers on the train to Busan work tirelessly to survive, and their successes are hard-fought and often come with heavy sacrifice. While devastating, the uneven odds are a refreshing change from the brutal murders of the infected. Seeing train cars filled with those who have fallen victim to the infection add a human dimension to them that is often lost. Despite being a lethal threat, these are hundreds of people that are no longer drivers of their own bodies, and Train to Busan lets the heartbreak of that reality sink in. Following in the character-driven footsteps of 28 Days Later, 2002, Train to Busan marks itself as a must-watch for not only zombie enthusiasts but thrill-seekers and horror aficionados alike. Zombie movies have had many iterations, introductions, and elaborations, but Yeon Sang-ho has been able to add a fresh new spirit, creating a jumping-off point from which new stories can be told. Following a motley crew on a bumpy ride from Seoul to Busan to escape a zombie outbreak, writer-director Yeon Sang-ho's action-horror railroad movie Train to Busan pulses with relentless locomotive momentum. As an allegory of class rebellion and moral polarization, it proves just as biting as Bong Joon-ho's sci-fi dystopia Snowpiercer. While delivering even more unpretentious fun, Yeon has displayed recognizably cinematic sensibilities in his last 3 indie anime features, King of Pigs, Fake, and Seoul Station. So it's not surprising that he transitions easily into live action, though his scathing, nihilistic vision of humanity is watered down for wider mainstream appeal. Buyers for Asian-friendly genre products should clamber to board Train. Despite the vibrancy of genre cinema in Korea, you can count the country's zombie films on the fingers of one hand. But whether it's alleged prototype, Let Sleeping Corpses Lie ripoff, A Monstrous Corpse, or the more recent Zombie School, 2014, they've all been slapdash and unoriginal. However, with a MERS epidemic sweeping South Korea in 2015 and soaring discontent with corruption and economic disparity, a zombie apocalypse serves as a potent allegory for the dog-eat-dog world. In Seoul Station, Yeon depicted a homeless enclave inside the central train station as the ground zero of a zombie outbreak. Train to Busan picks up where that film left off. While the anime's excoriation of the police and army is softened in the live-action sequel, scenarios of humans and zombies precariously separated by carriages fittingly symbolize the dangerous gap between society's haves and have-nots. Workaholic fund manager Seok Woo takes his estranged young daughter, Kim Suan, on the KTX high-speed train to Busan to visit his ex-wife. The last person to hop on is a teenage girl whose bare thighs are crisscrossed with bulging veins. Yet, passengers and train crew get more alarmed over a homeless man hiding out in the washroom, one of the film's frequent barbed comments on snobbery in Korean society. The first 15 minutes tease audiences with glimpses of zombie threat, like a shadow lunging spastically across the platform, or ominous news reports of riots in the capital. Once the infected girl claims the first victim, however, the action surges ahead with exhilarating mayhem, abetted by the claustrophobic layout of train compartments. The main reason zombies rank less scarily on the ghoulish scale is their slow waddling gait. But the resident evil here is so deliriously energetic and agile, it's like they're powered by ginseng and soju. Yeon's background in animation definitely lends their assault a cartoonish ferocity. The creatures' only weakness is the fact they see poorly in the dark, giving rise to several mini-climaxes when Seok-woo exploits this to outwit them. Whereas in Hollywood disaster or apocalyptic movies, the chief protagonist tends to take charge and puts him or herself in the line of fire. Seok-woo subverts the cliché by acting on his elitist, self-preserving instincts, telling Suan off for giving her seat to an old lady, and shutting the door on escaping passengers, Sang-hwa and his pregnant wife, Sung-kyu, Jung Yoo meet Oki's movie. It is up to Suna, with her child's innate decency, and the burly but dauntless Sang-hwa, to undo the financial go-getting, cutthroat attitude, so he can learn that it is cooperation and altruism that ensures survival in a catastrophe. Fans of Yeon's edgier animations may miss his remorselessly evil characters, whose misogyny, sadism, and dirt-filthy expletives exert repulsive fascination. In their place, Train features something one never expected from Yeon. Nice people, such as a pair of high school lovebirds who stay faithful till the end, two deeply affectionate elderly sisters, and the selfless tramp. The only major villain comes in the form of a middle-aged corporate weasel, whose calculating cowardice is bland compared with the conmen, religious hypocrites, or bullies in Yeon's past works. But his ability to incite the passengers into callous behavior is instrumental in illustrating how mob mentality works. Given the sheer velocity of the action, some emotional connection is needed to prevent the film from turning into sheer technical exercise. Thus, Seok-woo's gradual reform and other humane elements are essential to offset the insentient aggression of the zombies. Their sentimentality are also gleefully tempered by the jumpy, unpredictable script, which constantly teeters between nerve-wracking and hilarious, as when Seok-woo hears his mother zombifying over the phone while still bitching about her daughter-in-law. Shooting in standard 1.85.1 instead of widescreen, the confined mise-en-scene nonetheless affords lenser Lee Hung-deok plenty of room for nifty camera work of stunts and unexpected nooks. Washrooms become thrilling battlegrounds and unlikely sanctuaries. An extended sequence in which the driver tries to switch trains is choreographed with the utmost suspense. However, like most Korean blockbusters, the production cannot resist showing off its visual and special effects clout, resulting in a bombastic stunt toward the end that's incongruous with the film's lean, gritty style. Likewise, the screenplay piles on the hysteria and the schmaltz in the last leg, and the hitherto restrained cast have no choice but to dial up performances to a borderline farcical level. Craft contributions are top drawer, especially breakneck editing by Yang Jin-mo, who raises suspense to nearly unbearable levels. Music by Gong Yoo and sound effects by Choi Tae-young are both sparingly and effectively deployed for genuine shocks rather than false jolts. Every couple years, the internet goes crazy for a foreign genre movies like A 12-Year-Old in Love, and this movie will seldom feature a train for some reason. People love trains. Last time it happened, it was for the perfectly adequate yet telegraphed Snowpiercer, which I couldn't help but feel slightly underwhelmed with. The internet hype train was back in 2016 for a Korean movie titled Train to Busan, which promised to be everything The Walking Dead wasn't. Is this movie any good, though? What is with people on the internet and trains? I've watched Train to Busan, and let me tell you, it's once again perfectly adequate, But you need a major zombie boner in order to truly enjoy this. A boner I lost sometime in 2012. Train to Busan is the story of hedge fund manager and title holder of Worst Dad in the World, Seok-woo, who fucked up and bought his daughter's love with a Wii 2 times in a row. In order to make up for his inept parenting, the aforementioned daughter Suan Kim requests a trip to Busan to visit her estranged mother for her birthday. Because Suan is a decent child despite everything. This is important. Caught red-handed being shitty, Seok-woo has no choice but to acquiesce to his daughter's request and book the trip, which would have been a straightforward affair if it didn't occur during the freaking zombie apocalypse. Being caught in a train full of people with a zombie virus that spreads quicker than chlamydia might not have anything to do with shitty parenting, but it forces you out of your comfort zone to survive. The great thing about The Walking Dead is that is derailed the zombie craze of greedy studio executive. It absorbed his about every creative angle you could use to zombie apocalypse narratives like Walmart absorbs small businesses when it settles in a new city. What makes Train to Busan unique and mildly exciting is that it doesn't try to outdo The Walking Dead at anything. It doesn't try to be deeper, more meaningful, or more brutal. It's just one long, kinetic bad trip. Writer and director Sang-ho Yeon conveys emotion with immediacy and urgency because death is always 18 seconds away. The characters of Train to Busan don't philosophize about humanity because they're constantly busy not getting their fucking face eaten, and there's an undeniable charm about it. It feels like a George Romero movie on cocaine, and as far as zombie apocalypses goes, it's the perfect counterpoint to the all-encompassing Walking Dead. So Train to Busan is a series of frenetic runs, discussions between complete strangers over the best possible course of action for immediate survival, zombies that sprint really fast, and characters who turn into zombies and start sprinting towards the remaining protagonists really fast. It's that kind of movie where things are just rolling without leaving you time to think. It's fast, intense, and claustrophobic. Even in public spaces, there are so many zombies coming at the protagonist from everywhere, it's panicking at shit and somehow always forces the characters back into that goddamn train. I guess the title doesn't lie about what kind of film it is. It's merely a little longer than the actual train ride to Busan. I believe it was said to be an hour long. Seok-woo is originally planning to go back to work the same day. And it's pretty much what you're getting. It's slickly executed and doesn't rely on either cheap emotional manipulation or shock value to get your attention. It's not really a movie that's full of surprises. That said, I want to slip a quick word about the oddly entertaining morals of that movie. A typical American movie would have pitted the protagonist, a good, righteous man in a tough situation, against an immediate threat, the embodiment of evil itself. But it's not the case here. Train to Busan's protagonist Seok-woo is very flawed and is put into a situation that unfairly exploits that flaw, selfishness. In a world where everybody can turn into a mindless cannibal in mere seconds, the only way you can assure your loved ones don't turn into that is by watching over them. And the idea of loved ones can quickly turn into the ones that are left, when you can become zombified faster than Michael Jackson takes to get through the chorus of Thriller. Train to Busan was brazenly honest in that regard, and it made the movie more interesting than it should have been to me. It challenged the narrow-mindedness of conventional Hollywoodian morals in a simple and brilliant way. So, there you have it. Train to Busan is undoubtedly good, and by that I mean it delivers zombie-themed scares competently. There's nothing inherently new about it, but if you're looking for zombie scares, and I don't know why you'd be looking for them right now, this will get the job done. It's a serviceable zombie movie, if you'll allow me the expression. Don't let the internet railroad you into watching it, though. You have seen similar movies before, and you will see similar movies in the future. If your zombie boner is still alive in 2017, though this might get you going a little further out of sheer contrast with The Walking Dead alone, we oftentimes overlook foreign films, giving excuses such as not understanding the language or not being able to relate to the culture in which the movie's environment is set in. Fortunately, When I took my yearly trip to South Korea, I was able to view the zombie movie, Train to Busan, a movie that did not get to have a theatrical run in the St. Louis area. With no subtitles or English voiceover, keep in mind that I do understand conversational Korean, not movie dialogue, the film was powerful enough to employ the same emotions of grief, terror, and suspense even better than most main Hollywood action blockbusters today through visual storytelling. I guess I can call myself a veteran zombie genre viewer. From the 1981 The Evil Dead to Shaun of the Dead, my zombie movie list is quite lengthy. The critically acclaimed Shaun of the Dead comes first on my list, with Train to Busan coming in second. That's how good this movie is. The film follows a father, Sok-woo Yoo-gong, a busy father with a hectic career, running around South Korea taking care of job-related errands. Focused on his job, he divorced his wife and maintains an unhealthy relationship with his young daughter, Soo-an, Kim Soo-an. While prepping for a 2-hour train ride to Busan from Seoul on his daughter's birthday, Soo-an pleads her father to go. Little do they know that a zombie outbreak is happening in the city. While boarding the train, an infected passenger gets on board, spreading the virus, forcing passengers to either work together or die, pitting a high school baseball team to even elderly women to collaborate to survive the train ride in a lengthy life-or-death situation. The thing I find that makes a zombie film truly entertaining is that the conflict is scaled down, something debut live-action director-writer Song Ho-yeon understands compared to the massive scale of World War Z, involving scenes that made the main character travel to various countries around the globe, looking for clues for a cure. Train to Busan does the exact opposite, maintaining the same setting for most of the film, while having its characters focus on trying to stay alive rather than looking for a cure. Allowing for director Song Ho-yeon to include more scenes involving action and suspense, instead of having mundane conversations about how to cure the virus. Without having to worry about a cure or the origin of the infection, Train to Busan is filled with intense action scenes without any shaky cam and harrowing moments of suspense. The action in the film is brutal. With no guns to finish off the zombies quickly, the characters resort to using baseball bats and duct tape around their arms, resulting in blood, gore, but most of all, believable fighting from the characters. The thing about the action in this film is that the choreography is not that fancy compared to movies such as The Raid or Jason Bourne. Since the characters are all civilians, none of them are trained to take out zombies, giving the audience sloppy yet realistic actions, building on to the tension that the people on the train are going to have a hard time surviving. This brings me to the film's suspense. Train to Busan's suspense element is its selling point. The suspense is constant and exhausting, added in with a couple of unpredictable scares, not jump scares. I remember being on the edge of my seat for the entire time, wondering if the main characters would get through the next train car safely. Although Train to Busan is no horror film, the amount of anxiety it brings to the audience puts a lot of mainstream horror flicks to shame. Speaking of horror flicks, a lot of the characters make stupid decisions, much like the common cliché of saying, "Let's split up." However, these decisions are made by characters under high pressure. Looking back, the movie is not as much as a zombie film, but it is more focused on what humans do under pressure. Much of my opinions of each character was based on what their decisions were. Oftentimes, there would be characters willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good, while other characters would selfishly use people to stay alive. And it really tips the balance on who the viewer should be rooting for. However, what I love about this film is that these decisions are all justified. Much of the movie's underlying question is, what would you do in this situation? One could question why characters would need to sacrifice themselves in a zombie outbreak, but the zombies in this film are no Walking Dead zombies. The zombies are reminiscent of the sprinting, spastic zombies found in World War Z and 28 Days Later. Characters are often chased by hordes of these types of zombies, and these hordes do anything to get their hands on human flesh, leaping from the ground or clinging onto the back of the train. Veiny, white-eyed, and coated with dried blood, the zombies in Train to Busan are definitely some of the scariest in the genre. Ultimately, Train to Busan is a great zombie flick. Despite the fact that I feel like some of the scenes were too dragged out for the sake of action, the majority of the film maintained to have elements of scary zombies, suspense, lovable, hateable characters, and a simplistic plot, which kept the movie from getting complicated or too predictable. I especially loved the director's choice to incorporate some humor to break up the tension, resulting in a perfect mix of action, horror, and comedy. Something Hollywood action horror films seem to miss these days. Train to Busan serves as one of the prime examples of why we should go out of our way to see films from other countries that execute the story and the director's vision much better than the conventional Hollywood way. Foreign films are becoming more mainstream in the minds of moviegoers, thanks to easier accessibility with streaming services like Netflix, slowly taking over the world. Thanks to a regular reader of MovieBabble, I stumbled upon a film produced in South Korea that has become popular among thriller horror enthusiasts, Train to Busan. The film has been praised for its take on the zombie subgenre. But did the film have enough bite for this critic? Background: Train to Busan is directed by Sang Ho-yeon and features Yoo-gong and Jung, alongside a ton of scared-looking extras. The film tells the story of a father, Yoo-gong, who has a less than stellar relationship with his wife and daughter. However, it's his daughter's, Jung's, birthday, and all she wants is to be able to see her mother in Busan. Begrudgingly, the father takes off work to respect his daughter's wishes by taking a bullet train with her to her desired location. However, once the train begins to move, passengers soon realize that a group of ever-growing, deadly adversaries are on board. Zombie movies have become somewhat of a shell of what they used to be in recent years. However, there are a select few films that subvert cliches of the genre to make horrifying and engrossing films. Train to Busan seemed to be following that trend, with a predominant amount of the film taking place in an enclosed area. This idea speaks to smart writing, which I can most certainly get behind. However, there's an obvious stigma surrounding this film since many moviegoers refuse to watch films that include subtitles. In my humble opinion, you can't really be considered a film fan unless you open yourself up to all types of cinema. A good story is a good story, no matter the language. Rate a film based on its merits, not for your inability to read semi-quickly. Sorry, I just needed to get that out. I get worked up from time to time. Anyways, what I like, Train to Busan has some pretty fantastic writing from writer-director Sang Ho-yeon. As I alluded to above, Train to Busan has some very inventive ways of keeping the actions tense and compelling. Rather than lazily having characters gun down zombies with machine guns left and right, each set piece is carefully planned out and different from the previous, where the characters have to think outside the box with every new challenge. I found the use of the zombies fascinating. The film kept adding little wrinkles to their traits. However, these little additions never felt absurd, nor took away from what the movie had already set up. They also have very nice practical makeup that add to the dread of the film. Each extra used as a zombie gave 100% effort. I tried to look for a zombie that was lollygagging behind, waiting to pick up his paycheck, but thankfully, I never did. This allowed for the film to have a realistic edge. Additionally, each character moment in the film has a setup and a payoff, allowing for a well-rounded story that it is more than a monster movie. There's a ton of memorable characters in this film that keep you emotionally invested, the best of which is played by Dong-seok. Although he is initially an opposing force to our main character, he has so much swagger and screen presence that you instantly begin to love him once he gets rid of his grimace. He's the coolest, most heroic, and surprisingly one of the most thoughtful characters in Train to Busan. Not shockingly, he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the Asian Film Awards for his work in this film. What I liked continued. While the film has hundreds of zombies at the center of this film, the real story here is the relationship between the father and daughter. There is an endearing relationship that grows throughout the film between these two characters. The well-written script allows for chaos to cease in order for these moments to happen. The best quality a relationship can have in film is that it feels organic. Train to Busan has this characteristic in spades. There's also a neat little camera trick that Train to Busan utilizes to heighten the mania of the hordes of zombies. Every time the zombies break loose, the camera appears to use a lower frame rate, which makes movements look a little more choppy and frantic. Whether it was planned or not, it works well when paired with the zombies and increases the hysteria of each set piece. What I didn't like, although Train to Busan is a very good movie, it's not perfect. Even though I loved the zombies and their construction, I had some questions regarding the human transition into a zombie. At times, people would turn immediately into zombies after getting bit. However, some characters took an extended period of time to become monsters. I struggled to find a concrete rule to this trait like the other features with the zombies. It felt like the movie was making it up as it went along in order for more character moments to take place. Other than that, good job, Train to Busan. You kept my inner cynic at bay. Conclusion. As a whole, Train to Busan is a superior foreign film that crosses genre lines to make a fun, tense thrill ride. It gets an A. There's a certain edge to Train to Busan that really, really works. It catches your attention and doesn't let go until the movie's 2-hour runtime is complete. The next time you're flipping through Netflix, try this one out instead of watching Captain America: Civil War for the 11 billionth time. You won't be disappointed. This review came to be from a reader request, so if you have a film you want reviewed, please speak up. You might just get your wish. Thanks for reading. Have you seen Train to Busan? Comment down below to let your thoughts be heard. If you enjoyed this article, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. What movie topic should I discuss next? Whether it be old or new, the choice is up to you. A Korean zombie roller coaster. How fun is that? Some horror movies are a terrific cultural connector to their region. Train to Busan is a madcap, panic-soaked zombie apocalypse film that wears its Korean heritage proudly. Plenty of Korean-centric tropes here, from the overly busy corporate father to the gung-ho young baseball team to the very train itself. It all has such a great Korean soul. Couldn't resist. Eric's bad horror movie pun for the month. It is a zombie film, so I shouldn't read too much into it, but this is a bit of a North Korea, South Korea allegory, with the threat of your neighbors to the north poised to storm over the border. But perhaps I read too much into that. What is undeniable, however, is that this movie is shot with an amazing verve and pace. The story is packed with immediately compelling characters, particularly Seok-woo, the aforementioned delinquent divorcee dad, his cherubic daughter, Suan, and lovable tough guy Sang-hwa, Dong-seok Ma, who I will be looking for in future movies. The plot is about as straightforward as it gets. Seok-woo and Suan are leaving Seoul to pay a visit to Suan's mother in Busan on a high-speed commuter train. As soon as the train leaves the station, the zombie plague strikes. It starts with a single sick passenger who then infects one of the stewards, and then it's a flood of zombies. Who's to say how long it takes for a zombie infection to take? In this movie's case, just like the action, the infection strikes very quickly. At times, it really feels like an unstoppable rush of the undead. We've seen some of this before with 28 Days Later, the Dawn of the Dead remake, and World War Z. But these fast zombies are in a contained space, and the combination of the claustrophobia and the speed at which the horde comes is breathtaking. Lots of great supporting players make lots of noble sacrifices, and the villainous, selfish businessman is suitably dastardly. Train to Busan is admittedly not a particularly original movie. Many of the traditional zombie movie beats are all there. From the silence before the zombie rush, to the sneaking around the zombies who are too dim to spot the survivors, to the fantastic closing scene in all its stumbling and staggering exhaustion, the key thing is that this is executed at a level much higher than the average zombie movie. It is fun, it is gross, and it is heartfelt. The father-daughter connection, so central to this movie, is spot on. After so many apparent years of neglectful parenting, Seok-woo is making up for his absentee parenting in the most poignant way possible. Equally important, Suan still loves her dad and hasn't given up on him. I also really enjoyed the bonds of camaraderie shown by a pair of elderly sisters and the rowdy and brave baseball players who desperately try and be the young protectors of the train. At some point, I know it will happen. some American production company will try and copy this movie and call it Train to Boston, and co-opt the greatness that is this movie. It's the fate of many successful Asian horror movies to be released in America with a Western update of the film. Ringu, The Grudge, Battle Royale, Dark Water, Power Rangers. Okay, forget Power Rangers. What I will implore you, good reader, is to make sure that you see this version of Train to Busan before it becomes a watered-down Hollywood version. I don't normally give A ratings. To date, I've only given A reviews to the Doctor Who 2018 Season 11 premiere, Searching 2018, and Sharp Objects 2018. There are many more things I've eagerly watched, only to be so disappointed that I just passed on spending the time writing a review. Cuff, Hereditary. Train to Busan 2016 is certainly worthy of high praise, and is the first movie I've given an A+ to. Until now, I assumed I'd cap the highest grade at an A. This movie far exceeded my expectations. I watched it last weekend and haven't stopped talking about it since. This Korean apocalyptic thriller is no ordinary zombie movie. Train to Busan premiered first at Cannes in 2016, and just a few months after became the first Korean movie of 2016 to top 10 million moviegoers. After watching it on Netflix and being completely blown away, I'm not sure how I missed the hype in 2016. In my defense, in summer 2016, I was moving hundreds of miles away from home to start grad school, so I wasn't watching much of anything at the time. Better late than never. Train to Busan stars Gong Yoo as Seok-woo, an overworked fund manager and neglectful father. His young daughter Suan, played by Kim Suan, begs him to take her to stay with her mother in Busan for her birthday. He reluctantly agrees, thus setting off a frightening chain of events to cap off one hell of a birthday. They meet and quickly bond with Sang-hwa, played by Dong-seok, an honest, hard-working man, and his pregnant wife, Song-kyung, played by Jung, after some initial friction between the two men. This film movie touches on themes of family, honesty, morality, capitalism, and social stigma of poverty and mental illness in a very covert, non-preachy way. Our cast of heroes cross paths with love-struck high schoolers, two elderly sisters, a selfish and greedy COO, a homeless man suffering from PTSD, among others. I smiled at the moments of love, triumph, sacrifice, and well-deserved vengeance peppered throughout. This film includes one of the most breathtaking cinematographic moments I've ever witnessed on any screen. Every now and then, there's a part in the movie when there's a ton of zombies in pursuit of their next victims. When I say a ton, I don't mean average The Walking Dead numbers. For reference, the movie travels through multiple cities, from Seoul all the way to Busan. Those two cities alone have an estimated combined population of 14 million people. And that's not counting the cities along the way. For reference, the state of Georgia, where most of TWD is set, has about 10 million people. So we have tons of people turning into zombies very rapidly, and all of them end up trying to chase the same small herd of people. There are multiple occasions in which the zombies fall over each other to create a gigantic, living and breathing zombie rat king. Google at your own risk. I tried to take a screenshot, but capturing high-action scenes is trickier than it looks. You'll just have to take my word for it, and then see for yourself. Since I'm already talking about the zombies, let me tell you one thing. These things are fast. I jokingly told friends that I didn't want to watch the movie late at night, because I'd have nightmares. I have a no scary movies after dark rule. They assured me that I'd be fine. Well, they lied. The movie itself isn't scary, and I actually didn't have nightmares. But my heart did race at times because I didn't expect these zombies to run like they're chasing down Usain Bolt for his gold medals. The zombies fly like bats out of hell, and it is absolutely terrifying. This movie also succeeds in disrupting certain dominant elements of the zombie genre. Train to Busan did exceptionally well at world building, with very, very little. The world building was quite brilliant given the situational constraints of the movie. Unlike other movies, the characters' discovery of zombie mechanics wasn't forced or disjointed. Breadcrumbs were dropped throughout, so that when someone had an epiphany, you immediately remembered that yes, you noticed that thing too. We knew very quickly, 1, how people were being turned into zombies so fast, 2, the zombies' physical capabilities, and 3, their shortcomings. which is even more important. Mild spoiler in this paragraph. This movie is thought-provoking regarding the overall mythology of zombies. After the outbreak on the train begins, the passengers quickly realize that the zombies are blind. More like night blind. Blind zombies. Honestly, I never thought about zombie sight. In other cinematic works, it's abundantly clear that zombies have good hearing and smell, but I've never thought about whether they can see. Most movies and shows imply that they're blind, but that aspect is never central to the plot. In Train to Busan, it's absolutely critical. I personally experienced partial night blindness in one eye, so it was amusing to watch this be such an important piece of the movie. There aren't that many good horror, apocalyptic, thriller, scary, whatever movie these days. This movie did a lot with a little. They're stuck running between a few train cars for most of the movie, and every aspect came together. This movie isn't for the faint of heart. You may not be scared, but you'll most certainly find yourself devolved into a puddle of tears by the end. Train to Busan spares no punches. There's tragedy after tragedy, and even the ending is bittersweet. You'll love it. I Promise. Directed by Yeon Sang Hao, written by Park Joo-suk, produced by Leonga, starring Gong Yoo, Dong Kim Swen, Chikon Soi, Kim Youm, cinematography edited by Jin. Mo music by Jang Geo production companies. Next Entertainment World. RedPeter film distributed by Next Entertainment World. Release dates the 13th of May 26 CC, the 20th of July 26 South Korea. Running time 108 minutes. Country South Korea. Language Korean. Budget 0.5 million. Box office 98.5 million. So guys, this is the review of Train to Busan movie and some information about it. How do you like our today's video? Please let us know by commenting, and if you like this video, please like it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank